Guys, Joe here, and I want to, before we begin, talk about the rules of looking at a vehicle with me. Number one, I am not here to make a recommendation or try to sell you a car. That is not my goal with these videos. My goal with these videos, because I'm a little bit more car savvy than the average buyer, is to jump into a car, take a look at it, give you my personal opinions on things I like and things I don't like. And you can use that to decide whether or not you even want to test drive a certain vehicle. Now, you may have been considering a vehicle, but when I mention things like no leg room or bad headroom, things like that, you may go, hey, you know what? Maybe that isn't the car for me. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. I don't want to make you buy a car, but I don't want to completely dissuade you either. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm treating it as if this is the first time I've ever driven this particular vehicle. Now, I'm going to be a little bit biased on some things just because I have personal experience with many different cars, but I will try to be as open and objective as I can. Don't expect me to be sucking the a-hole of any manufacturer in terms of a vehicle. Any reviewer or anybody that says they're being honest, yet they've never said a bad thing about a product, is lying to you, because quite frankly, there's something wrong with everything. Just the way it is. Anything that was produced to be mass purchased has a planned obsolescence, so they don't want to give you the absolute best. Otherwise, why would you buy another one? So, rules out of the way. Okay, so this will have to be a little bit down and dirty just because I'm almost out of battery. But this is the Platinum. As you walk around, you'll see it's got some cool stuff such as the LED headlight and the LED trim. Platinum comes with a special edition grille, which is obviously the one you're looking at right now. I can't point because I'm holding the camera with that hand, but it's only on the Platinum, as well as this design of the wheel is only available on the Platinum. Little accents they changed for 17 obviously would be like the chrome trim at the bottom of the doors and the shapes of the headlights and fog lights, which were redesigned for 2016, so there was no reason to change them for 2017. Coming over here to the window sticker, as you can see, $54,695 is a pretty loaded vehicle. It's got navigation, it's got the 20-inch wheels, it's got pretty much everything you'd want in it. Obviously, you have things like the power liftgate and power rear folding seats. You can see not a whole hell of a lot of room back there, but you could carry people in a pinch. Coming back here, it shares the exhaust tip design with the Sport, so only the EcoBoost engine vehicles, the Sport and the Platinum, have those trapezoidal tips. So a little bit of a down and dirty as I'm doing this, because I've got to get this done before I get back to the dealership, plus my battery's about to die. The biggest change obviously is the dashboard and the displays that are in it now. The previous year's cars had a big single speedo and configurable screens on either side, but like a lot of premium vehicles now, the gauges are digital, so they can display different things at different times, which are controlled by the steering wheel. It looks pretty cool. However, I would have gone with a slightly different font on the speedo and the TAC. They just seem kind of blasé, a little bit boring for what this car is. Either that or maybe gone with a different color, or I don't know. It's hard to really say what I would have changed. The steering wheel, it feels very nice. It's wood grain up top, or simulated wood grain, with leather all the way around it. Piano black finish, which, you know, attracts fingerprints from just about everywhere conceivable, but it does feel decent in the hands. It's power adjustable, which is an upper level Explorer thing, and it works fairly well. It's really easy to find a good position with it. Paddle shifters, because obviously this one has the Sport mode transmission. It's a 6-speed still. They haven't gone to an upgraded transmission. Again, they're probably saving that for the redesign. But otherwise, everything here falls directly to hand just like it used to. The steering wheel really isn't that much different from the 2013 and up redesign, or refresh, not the redesign, pardon me. The center stack, again, this is the Sony sound system equipped, so it's got the big speaker up front, big speakers in the back, and it's a premium system. However, the one thing that has always stood out to me is that knob. On this car, I really don't feel that it should be a chromed aluminum knob. It just doesn't fit with the rest of the aesthetic in here. It should be maybe a black chrome coating or something of that nature. as it sits that is kind of, it's kind of an eyesore, to be completely honest with you. And again, I'm sure the redesign will readdress that. However, I love the Sync 3. The touch interface is good. It works good. It's very intuitive. And I'm going to have to do a video one of these days about how to properly use voice-controlled apps on a car. Because a lot of magazines will bitch and moan and complain that the voice recognition sucks, it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. It's because you're not using it right. You can't use a 300-word sentence to set your navigation system. It even coaches you on how to do it the right way. I have no issues with it. So, yeah. Moving on. This one does have the forward-facing camera, which I will show you in a minute when I come to a stop because I'm going too fast for it to actually activate, as well as it has park assist and automatic park control. There you go. So this is a look out the front of the vehicle off the front bumper, and as you can see, even though it looks like I'm real close to him, I have plenty of room. Somebody could easily walk through there. So yeah, that's a convenient feature to have. And you obviously have 3 camera mode, and it works really well. Look, it's quilted! It's like toilet paper. No, not really. Quilting is a really popular thing again, but when Bentley came back with the Continental GT, it made it really hip to have quilted seat patterns again. Only the really, really, really fancy people ever quilted their seats in their regular vehicles. Very comfortable, except for the fact that, as you can see, the cushion is too damn short. And I'm sitting all the way back in the seat right now, and I have my legs hanging almost completely off the cushion. And my legs are not that long. Other thing, no real dead pedal room. As I was saying, the front wheel well intrudes into the cabin enough that there's no real comfortable place to put my left leg besides like right here in a seated position. They simplified this in the fact that it just has one USB port and the power outlet. I was going to say cigarette lighter, but it's not. It's a power outlet, because on the first versions of Sync 2, they had AV outs, or excuse me, AV ins, as well as the SD card reader for the navigation system, but now it's all software based and in there. So it's pretty nice, pretty good, works great. I like it. It's responsive, works very much like a smartphone. Interior room is pretty good. As I've said a few times, it's good. Second row seats, you have plenty of room. Third row seats are good in a pinch for regular size people. I would not put people over 6 foot in the third row unless you're going for a very, very short drive, because it's quite cramped in the legroom back there. And that, of course, comes back to the fact that this is a 6.5-year-old platform. And at the time when it came out, it was much bigger than the Ranger frame-based Explorer that it was originally built on. Looking up here, you have your dual panel sunroofs. I am not really a sunroof guy, but I will say that if I have to get something with a sunroof, I like a full glass roof as much as possible. It's just classier, it's more useful, it looks cooler, but in my personal vehicles that I've had with sunroofs, I've always kept them closed with the shades pulled. It's personal preference. I'm a little bit light sensitive. You can see back here you have your auxiliary controls for the rear climate, as well as a 110 volt power outlet and a couple more places to plug stuff in. Very convenient, very handy, works well. One thing I'm noticing that's absent in the Explorer versus, say, the Traverse, and again, it's due to the fact that it's an older design, is they did not incorporate wireless charging yet. As soon as they do, I will note it, but it probably is not going to happen until the redesign. My driving opinion on this vehicle. This car has obviously been sitting on the dealer lot where I picked it up from for a little while, because it's got the bigger wheels on it, the really nice wheels, but there is some vibration. I can actually see that you're shaking quite a bit, so I'm going to kind of put my hand there for a little bit. Yeah, that helps out a bit. Anyway, that'll work out as I drive the vehicle back. When you have very large wheels with smaller sidewalls, they can sometimes flat spot a little bit, but I can already feel that it's starting to work its way out. Interior comfort. This is an old design. It's based on the 2011 vehicle. It had a mid-cycle refresh, of course, and this one being a Platinum has all the top-of-the-line stuff, but it does suffer a few 2011 issues that Ford was having. Meeting position is nice. You have plenty of room this way, so your legs aren't sitting there all squished together and uncomfortable. I like the views out of the vehicle. Pretty good, pretty solid. The mirrors are a little bit smaller than I remember, but again, it's been 2 years since I've been in a new Ford, so that could just be a trick my brain is playing on me. Sync 3, oh my God, yes, love it. So much better than Sync 2 and massively better than the original Sync. Although Sync 1 was better than Sync 2 in most people's opinion, so it's neat. The steering wheel, I like it. It's based on the same basic steering wheel that's in all the Explorers, so it's a little bit hard underneath the padding, or at least the padding that's on here is not very thick. And you don't obviously want a spongy steering wheel. I've driven those as well. But on long trips, having a really hard core or a really hard foam can make the steering wheel a little bit tiresome to hold. And if any of you have had that experience, leave that in the comment. I've noticed that with a lot of Ford stuff. Not sure if it's the manufacturer of the steering wheels or just the way these are. Wheels have actually started to balance themselves out now, so very weird thing that happens when they sit, but feels fine now. This has the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, which is, you know, obviously where Ford stuck all its money because it's in the Raptor, it's in the Ford Taurus SHO, as well as in the Ford GT. The 2.7, believe it or not, seems to spool a little bit quicker, and I've driven that in the F-150s. In the F-150s, it seems to be maybe even better matched than the 3.5. So it's not hurting for horsepower or torque, so you have no problems getting up to speed, staying with the traffic, and having some fun. Steering is nice and tight. Ford is actually really good with their electric power steering in that they give it some weight so it doesn't feel like you're just holding a joystick and just spinning the knob. And it doesn't detract from the experience at all. I've driven some cars that have completely numb steering, and it kind of gets a little bit annoying because you're like, what's the front doing? And I'm overcorrecting, and it's just not a great experience. Now, turbo engines, of course, need to spool up before they make power, regardless of how small the turbo is or how good the engine is. But its acceleration when you're at freeway speed in this thing is pretty damn astonishing. In fact, hold on, I'm going to goose it once. Wow, it actually felt like I got some torque steer there. Being that this platform is over 7 years old now, and the reason why I say 7 years old is because it was actually built on the renewed Taurus frame, which came out before the Explorer did. It still is a decent ride, but you're definitely feeling a 7-year-old vehicle. Headroom, of course, has always been good. Even with the dual panel sunroof, I'm not having to scrunch down at all. In fact, I could sit more upright, but I'm comfortable the way I'm sitting. Thank you very much. Direct competitors for the Ford Explorer, obviously you have the new Traverse, which is a pretty good looking vehicle. I actually really do like it. Obviously you have the Toyota Pathfinder, because I think the Highlander is a little bit too small to be a direct competitor. The Honda Pilot has always been cross-shopped with the Explorer. I think the Honda is a little bit nicer. See, I said something good about Honda. No haters. One problem that the Ford Explorer has is that it actually competes with its little brother, the Edge. And the Edge is no longer really the little brother. The previous generation Edge did not have an EcoBoost engine. It actually had the 3.7 out of the Mustang, which was, I believe, rated at 300 horsepower in the Edge, which was pretty good for what it had compared to the base 3.5. So it was making 40 more horsepower, something like that. And not a bad vehicle, but the new Edge Sport actually is a very strong competitor for the Explorer Sport because it has the 2.7 EcoBoost V6, which is much closer in terms of performance than the old 3.7, 3.5 combination. And at a similar price point, it becomes, do you need 7 seats or would you rather have a more spacious 5-seater? Some people would rather have the 5-seater, some people would rather have the 7-seater. I'm not going to tell you which one I prefer. One thing of interest that I thought I would point out is the fact that Lincoln does not make a Explorer knockoff or an Explorer variant, because it does it for all the other SUVs and CUVs. There's the Lincoln MKC, which is based on the Escape. You have the Lincoln MKX, pardon me, which is based on the Edge. And of course you have the Lincoln Navigator, which is based on the Ford Expedition. But for some reason, Lincoln has never done an Explorer thing. I think because they got their bones handed to them when they did the Aviator. And for those of you old enough to remember the Aviator, how you doing? And quite frankly, it would be hard to justify a Lincoln version of this vehicle, because the Edge equivalent can run up to, I think, $70,000. So it can be $16,000 more expensive than even this little dearie. This little dearie went to college. Hopefully you saw a car video today. I've been working on getting it edited. However, the audio is all screwed up. I think there's something loose inside my GoPro, so it's vibrating. I tried to solve that today by gluing the mount into a fixed position, as well as adding a foam pad underneath the mount itself. The reason why I didn't have that before is because I'm using this microphone, because I have to put together a rig that I can edit with, and that has not happened yet. As soon as I do get that done, then I'll just be switching back to using a secondary audio source, my phone or whatever, or using a longer cord and getting to put you back on the windshield. And yeah, so that's about it. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Sorry, eating an apple and it got wedged in my mouth. If you have any comments, leave those down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. Again, I want to get to 500 as soon as possible, just as a goal. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon, there will be a link up here, which will be above my head. There'll be a couple of more videos over here for you to watch. Also, if you'd like to help the channel in other ways, such as if you have anything you'd like to donate, let me know. Send me a private message, and if I do a build with it or if I show it, those will just be stuff that will either be in turn given away, or if you send me like games or something, I'll just add those to the collection. So otherwise, until later, talk to you later. I'm allergic to apples.